storm!
And go where? We're in the middle of a storm cloud!
I need to find shelter!
Maybe we should go back! Get out of here!
No! No, we've come too far!
Well, there you go. There it is. Hey, I'm Benjamin Dane. Welcome to Struck Live. I play Noah in this incredible upcoming series, Struck the Series. And today is our 10th episode live. So it's pretty thrilling. We've gotten this far and I haven't messed up too bad. But listen, this is thrilling for me because I'm involved in this. But we are here and we're excited today because on this 10th episode, we're going to be talking to James Burgess, who is the cinematographer for Struck. He's an award-winning cinematographer who's done countless projects. So I cannot wait for you guys to see him and kind of see his background also. But in addition, hang on and keep tuning in because we're going to show a premiere an entire scene from the series that we haven't showed you guys yet. We've showed pieces, but we haven't showed the entire scene. So we're going to show that scene to you today. So stay tuned until the end so you can make sure you see that. Again, it's a world premiere. You guys that are on right now will be able to see it. But listen, so Struck the Series is this amazing series. We're about to go to distributors. You guys have hung in. A lot of people who don't know about it yet. Let me tell you a little bit about the story. But it's basically the true story of John D. Morris, who was a geologist, but he was kind of like this modern day Indiana Jones. And he was struck by God to find evidence of Noah's Ark. And so he set out on 13 different expeditions to Mount Ararat, searching for the Ark. He was attacked by dogs, he dodged avalanches, he was shot at. I mean, just crazy miracle type stuff. He was even struck by lightning and paralyzed. And you can see that in our story in the trailer. When you go online to strucktheseries.com, you can see all that. And then also, I just want to tell you guys to make sure you log on to strucktheseries.com and be a part of the Lightning Club. That's very important because it gives you a once a month communique. You get the Struck Bolt that comes to you, and it gives you the latest and greatest information of what's going on with the series. So if you're intrigued, if you're a part of the Lightning Club, you get that, and you're going to get news that no one else has the moment it is developed every month. So it's important that you do that. And let me just tell you something else that's kind of cool. If you go to strucktheseries.com, you're also going to have access to Struck merchandise. And right now, in fact, if you're seeing this live, I would suggest you go on right after the live is over with, because we've got 20% off all merchandise. It's something that we're doing only for the next few days until July the 26th. So if you're watching this after we've recorded it, you probably won't get a chance to get the merchandise at 20% off. This is a quick deal. And honestly, it's you got to make sure that you use that particular code. Let me get it on the screen for you, but it is Heatwave20. So use that code, and you can, I mean, there's like embroidered hats, and there's t-shirts, and there's stainless steel tumblers, and you can even get jewelry that is Struck merchandise. And here's the cool thing is the proceeds go to help develop Struck the series. So you're helping us, and we're also giving you merchandise that you're paying for, of course, but it is a statement of faith. So make sure that you do that. That's just very important that you do that, because it really helps us out. So do that. Go online while you've got this chance to get the 20% off. I would do that. In fact, I think I'm going to do it. I've got a few things, but I want more. So anyway, like I said, Struck the series, and I told you a little bit about the John story, but I play Noah, and we parallel the story, the true story of John D. Morris, who was struck by God to find the ark, but we also parallel the story with Noah, the biblical account of Noah and how he was struck by God to build the ark. So you're going to see things that you have just never seen before. It is an epic adventure series. And so I want to tell you guys a little bit about that, but follow and share. Let people know about this series. It really is going to be a phenomenal, groundbreaking series, and we're very excited about it. I'm going to check because I can see right now who is online. I've got Cindy Navarro. I've got Steve Wells. I've got several people. If you're online, say hello. I see several people watching. If you can comment live, and you can even ask James questions live. So if you're online, make sure you do that. We do have several people watching right now, but here's Amanda Llewellyn. So, hey, Amanda. Amanda says it is a epic adventure series, even for the creators. Yes, it has been epic going into this. I will tell you that. But hey, Amanda, good to see you on. And we've got Don Westbrook. Oh, Teresa Westbrook and Don are both watching. So welcome aboard, you guys. And remember, I'll just kind of keep going back to the comments while we're talking to James, so that we can ask James questions. So think of your questions for James. Oh, we got Friendly on too. Hey, man, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while. It's good to see you on. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about James. James is our cinematographer, but man, he has done a ton of work, both secular and faith-based. And we're going to get into how he got started. We're going to talk to him about exactly who he is and why he does what he does, but also his career and how he got involved with Struck, and his feelings and his outlook as a cinematographer. So I think you're going to want to hear that. So without further ado, I want to add James to the stage. Hey, James, how are you?
Hey, Ben, it's good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you, man. I'm glad you're here. And I've worked with you for a number of years. I think we worked back on Beyond the Farthest Star a little bit, and then we started working more and more together as time progressed. But you guys, James is an excellent DP. He's amazing at what he does. And I just want to talk real quickly about how you got started in all this. Tell us a little bit about how you got started, maybe some first projects and some of your early work.
It actually started when I was very young. My father was a Christian film distributor back in the era when there actually was a complete Christian film industry. There were studios all over the country, West Coast, Midwest, East Coast, as well as independent producers. And so I grew up watching the full evolution of Christian film from the first black and whites, which were basically filmed sermons with little dramatic vignettes. And then as they progressed through about 2 decades, the sermons got shorter, the dramatic vignettes got longer until they got into full, dramatic type shows.
Right, right.
So that was the foundation. I grew up watching Christian films instead of television. I actually wanted to be an architect, and I had a high school that had a preparatory course that would lead to the University of Washington School of Architecture. And it
Wow.
was in the second semester of my senior year, I decided, well, this isn't for me. There's too much math. And I went off to Bob Jones University and got a Bachelor of Science degree in cinema.
Well, tell me about your first project. I think it's interesting. I think people will find this interesting.
Yeah.
David and Goliath. Tell me a little bit about that.
We actually shot this during my summer vacations when I came back to Seattle from Bob Jones.
Wow.
And it was the story of David and Goliath told by kids, children. We had a total of 500 in the cast. Now, that's not 500 every time we filmed, but over the period of the 3 summers, we went through about 500 different kids. The lead, as you can see there, is Steve Small, who played David. And, we could never make this film today. We
Yeah.
broke every single set safety rule that would ever be invented. Because these kids had to make their own costumes and props. That was the key to get into the film.
Uh,
And those that own horses brought their own horses. So they would make their swords, their shields, their costumes,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
every kid wanted to die because that was the most exciting thing, right? I want to die. I want you to stick a sword in me or a spear, and then I can fall down, roll down the hill, or whatever. And it was quite an epic production.
It's
There
incredible.
in the upper right-hand corner, you can see a camera trick. This is called forced perspective.
Yeah.
So even though the two kids are almost the same size, Goliath was a little older and larger. He's actually closer to the camera, and David's further away. And
Right. Right.
with a wide-angle lens with depth of field, it looks like they're standing, almost across from each other.
And you mentioned your first camera. What was your first camera?
My first camera was a Bolex 16 millimeter. It was designed and made in Switzerland. It was a wind-up camera. If you go back to that picture, if you can, I don't
Mhm.
know, you'll see the
Yeah.
long silver arm down here at the lower left. That was a crank. You'd flip that open and crank it up till the spring
Wow.
got tight, and then you could run for, I think it was about 30 seconds. It's a long time ago. I don't remember. And then
Wow.
you'd have to crank it back up again and then shoot another scene.
So
Yeah.
At Bob Jones, you also were involved in productions, and you were am I gonna get this right? An actor? You also were an
I did
actor?
do I did do some acting, in fact. Yes, I did.
Wow. See, I
That
didn't
was
know that
for,
about you, James.
that was a senior thesis project for a friend of mine, and I played a World War I soldier stuck in
Nice.
a, trench. Yeah, there I am.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible. So, and you also operated the camera, and so through at Bob Jones, is that where you really learned more about DP and the camera and
Yes, yeah.
composite?
As opposed to a lot of film schools today, which are a lot of film history, film aesthetic based, this is a really hands-on, technically focused uh, curriculum. And that's why I have a Bachelor of Science degree rather than a Bachelor of Arts. And so, yes, we learned everything from script, directing, producing, shooting, editing. We had to do all of those,
Both before, both in front and behind the
and
camera.
behind the camera.
Yeah,
Yes,
wow.
exactly. Mhm.
I think it's so great when filmmakers do that because you really get a chance to understand what the actor goes through and what the actor has to do,
Mhm.
as well as, when you're working behind the camera, I think you understand that better so you can direct or you can light or you can do whatever you need to do, get that right shot. I think it's important to know the in front of camera and behind the camera as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually ended up, I think, acting in 3 different films while I was there, including, when every few years, Bob Jones would make a full-blown historical feature film, and when I was there during my tenure, they did the film Flame in the Wind, which was about the Spanish Inquisition,
Wow.
and I remember getting fully dressed up in a Spaniard's costume and riding a horse.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, so tell me a little bit about you did this documentary series, is that right? Where you were traveling to 20 different countries?
Yeah, well, they were each trip to a country or several countries was for a specific client.
Mhm.
So in the 70s, I'm giving away my age now. I traveled overseas a lot for an organization called World Concern, and they were primarily looking at areas in Asia. So this was during just after the Vietnam War. So we would go to places like Thailand, Bangladesh, Hong Kong, Philippines. I remember being in Hong Kong Harbor when the big freighter called, I think it was Hui Fong, was just jam packed with refugees from Vietnam. And they were sailing up the coast of Asia there, trying to find a country that would let them in. But China was putting pressure on every country, including the Western free loving Asian countries, and even Hong Kong at that time, which was, part of the British Empire. Uh, no one would let them off because China was threatening them if they did. And I remember being in Hong Kong Harbor on this little Chinese, I forget what they call them, but we were circling the Hui Fong. And between us and the Hui Fong was a small British patrol boat. In case anyone jumped off, tried to swim to us to hopefully find freedom, they would intercept them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I would remember being in Bangladesh and there was this young girl just at the edge of the bush there who was dying from lack of water and the heat there. And it reminded me of my daughter.
Uh,
And it did this to me then.
yeah.
And when they saw me affected by what was happening to their little girl, they brought us into the village and let us shoot more than if we hadn't shown any kind of empathy for their little girl.
Yeah. Wow.
Most of the places I went during that in the 70s, it was always a refugee camp. It was someplace after a typhoon, places where people were starving, and we would teach them how to build ponds and do fish farming,
Mhm, mhm.
drill wells, plant trees. I remember one story in Africa. There was this place where they had this mound and they planted trees on this whole thing. It actually changed the environment. It brought birds and animals back, brought
Mm.
rain. um, then I traveled to Eastern Europe in the 90s and saw what had happened after the collapse of the Soviet Union. I've been to Moscow several times and to Romania and Bulgaria, been to Africa just after the AIDS epidemic in Uganda, walked through villages. The only people living were either the very, very young or the very,
Mhm.
very old. So it was all these grandmothers, grandfathers who was trying to raise the next generation.
It's interesting when you get out of the confines of our country and you see how other people live, you appreciate the cultures. But it's as a cinematographer, as you're seeing these things develop, you're kind of on the outside looking in to these cultures, and it's amazing that you're able to capture that and bring it back and so that people get some sort of an idea of what it's like. Well, tell me a little bit about some of your other work. I think I've got some photos here from, is it Wait for Me?
Wait for Me. Yeah. That was
Yeah.
a film in the mid 90s we did for Beverly LaHaye's organization, Concerned Women for America.
Uh-huh.
And you'll
Uh-huh.
probably recognize that one person over there against the extreme right edge of the frame. That's David A.R. White.
Oh,
One
wow.
of one of his first roles. I think he'd only done a couple things before this.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah. And the guy next to him is Joe Monroe, who played sort of a genie out of a bottle. This was an abstinence film,
Uh-huh.
and it was powerful. The top picture there is myself and my co-writer, Mark McKnight. He wrote the first part, which was all humor. I wrote the second part, which was kind of heavy on the messaging.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
but it was so strong. We started getting, well, they started getting reports back of how it was affecting kids' lives. And so we actually had to bring Joe and David back to Seattle, set them down, and put an epilogue on the end of the film to offer
Mm.
hope to people who hadn't waited. And
Wow. Wow.
I found out later that within the first 12 years of release, or 12 months of release, excuse me, that film had generated $1.25 million. That was what they call a premium gift. It's the offer that ministries
Yeah.
give out every month. You know, if you send $25, we'll send you this book or this tape,
Right.
video, whatever.
Right.
This was back, of course, in the days of VHS tape distribution. So if you were to divide $25, which was the ask at that time, into a quarter, you'll know how many VHS tapes they sold of that.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yes.
Well, so you've done secular work, you've done faith, you've done commercial work. So tell us about that project with Gary Busey there.
Gary Busey. Well, this is after I moved out of Seattle, moved to Las Vegas, actually. My brother had started a church there, and we went down to help him. And I had met a filmmaker up in Reno, and he was wanted to do this sci-fi film in HD.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I didn't know it when I was first introduced to it that it was going to be Gary Busey and April Bray. That's the two people you see there. Um, but it was interesting working with Gary. Let's just acknowledge that right off the top. But the one
Yeah,
thing that struck me is every time he sat down, he always asked me, "What lens are you using? What millimeter?" He knew his lenses and the distance from the camera so that he would
mm,
know the space he had to operate in. You know,
wow.
I was very impressed with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's true. I mean, actors really need to understand the technical aspects of how things are put together. It behooves them to understand editing and camera and composition and lighting and all of that because I think it helps. It's a collaborative effort, right? And I think it's important for actors to learn that.
Yeah. When you mention lighting, I think that's the one thing that acting classes really fail their
Mhm.
classes on. It just
Yeah.
what the biggest gripe I have is actors don't know how to find their light. They don't know how to stay in their light, and they don't know what their shadow's doing to the person across from them.
Yeah.
You run into that problem all the time, and I have to tell them between takes. I move them forward, back. Can you feel the light on your face? That's where you need to land.
That's
You
where
see
you
your
need to
shadow
that's
following
your
on this
mark.
person. Yeah, it's your
Yeah.
responsibility to find your light and make sure that your shadow isn't in
Right,
someone
right,
else's
right.
face.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, so, you've done a lot of various types of work. I mean, it's interesting because you've got a commercial here as well that you shot, but tell us a little bit more about some of your faith work.
Well, I think that started at the very beginning, back in the days when I was shooting film around the world. Most of the traveling I did was for Christian NGOs.
Mhm.
I also would do promotional films and fundraising films for different Christian organizations. And that's just, yeah, I always get, I think I would say, the greatest satisfaction when I'm working on a faith based project.
Sure.
Um, I mean, I think everyone compliments me on my imagery, and I appreciate that, and I say thank you. But it's a gift. Um, ever since I first picked up a camera, I just knew where to aim it. the classical answer is I knew what to frame out of the frame. That's the most important thing. What you don't want to show. Um, so it's just natural. I usually don't even think consciously about my setups. I usually walk onto the set and immediately see the shot, know where to put the key, where to put the fill, and everything. And that's why a lot of directors and producers say, "You're so quick. You're ready ahead of any other department." I'm sorry, it just comes naturally, and I just do what I was created to do. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Well, but and why is it that more like faith productions, or something that you like to do? Is it something? Is it because of your faith that you feel like you need to be involved with more faith productions, or has it just evolved that way in your career?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. Um, there's a verse in the Bible that says that we were created to do good works before the foundation of the world. That's our purpose for being here. That's why we just don't get saved and get beamed up. But there's a purpose for every one of our lives. And my purpose has been to help build the kingdom through visual creation of imagery and storytelling.
That's good. That's powerful. Well, let's talk about the Challenger disaster. So you've done a lot of
Mm.
different things, and you've won so many awards. I know we had shown Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, which you worked with Andy Labrizzi on, which is a powerful short. You guys, if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. The Reliant, so many other films that you've worked on. But tell us a little bit about the Challenger disaster and how that came about.
That was probably one of the most interesting and informative projects I've ever worked on. I didn't know the story behind the Challenger disaster. I didn't know about the guys that argued with NASA and the government all night long to stop that launch because they knew, because the temperature, they never had they done a launch below 32 degrees. And in Florida, it was freezing that time. And they'd had several delays due to technological problems. Like one day, I remember the hatch got stuck and they couldn't get it off. Um, and so these guys are spending the whole night arguing on the phone, telexing back and forth to different agencies, the manufacturer. And so it's a really deep exploration into the mindset and the psychology and the ethics and morality that these gentlemen had and what they were trying to do. But because of PR and I'm sure budgeting, NASA went ahead with the launch, and of course it blew up.
Wow.
But we had a great ensemble cast. I mean,
Yeah.
it was perfectly cast. It's an
Cameron
amazing. That's
Arnett.
actually the first
You
time
worked
I
with
met Cameron in
Cameron.
person. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, "Oh, there's Cameron."
Mhm.
I haven't seen I've always wanted to see that because I had a lot of friends that worked on that and I wanted to see it. But, and was that all shot in Texas?
Yes, all in San Antonio. Mhm.
Wow,
There
wow.
was an old Air Force base down in San Antonio that had been decommissioned, and it was in the process of being gentrified. New businesses moving in there,
Mhm,
remodeling
mhm.
and all that. And there was several buildings that were still, it was like people just got up and left. All the desks were still there, the chairs, the lamps.
Wow.
I found all kinds of blueprints. I'm sure anything of national security was taken away, but I found
Yeah,
blueprints of the layout of the plan. There's
wow.
typewriters, there's everything. So we ran around to find all these props and brought them into the rooms that we were shooting.
That makes it easier.
Yeah,
It's all
there was
there.
there was one problem though. On the third floor, there was some kind of a dead animal. Now,
Oh,
most of the days it was really cold down there in San Antonio that winter. I remember one time we had to stop because it was a freeze. Everything was frozen, the streets and everything. We couldn't even go to drive to the set. But if it warmed up after a certain temperature, you could smell that guy.
ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like
that was the only negative. The
I
rest of
had
it
that
was
happen to me, just a few months ago where we had a dead squirrel in the attic and,
oh
uh, It permeated the whole house. It was terrible. I know that smell.
Mhm.
Well, so tell me, James, in your work and in everything that you've done, been able to accomplish, what's really been your favorite project besides Struck? What's been your favorite project that
Oh,
you've
this one
worked
right
with?
there.
Do what?
This one
Oh,
right here.
behind you, the
Yes.
one behind
Can you
you.
see that? Yes.
Yes,
The Dark Places.
Dark
That's one of
Places.
my all-time favorites. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Yeah. So
And
tell us.
actually, it's probably won more awards than any other film I've ever worked on.
Really.
Mhm.
So tell me about that project.
Well, the imagery you have up right now is from Pursuit of Darkness. I mean, Pursuit of Freedom, pulled from darkness. Um, well, okay, I'll talk about this one. This was my first time working with George Johnson up in Indiana. We did this film
Mhm.
based on a true story of a woman whose husband got into trouble because he was deep into gambling debt with the Russian mafia, and they were threatening to come after him and his family and do away with him because he hadn't paid his debt. And so the wife and the kids escaped and ended up in Armenia. And it follows her. She's the mother. Excuse me, no, the mother didn't make it. The kids escaped with a relative to Armenia. The mother was captured and taken into the sex trade. And she was there, I think, 3 or 5 years, and she developed cancer. And they dumped her out in an alley. She actually ended up in the Netherlands, and someone came along and found her, took her into the hospital, and happened to be a nurse who was a Christian. Happened to be providentially. And so she initiates the search for the kids, and then eventually they're found and reunited. But that film gave me the opportunity to really use shadow and light like
Mhm.
probably no other film. I think because of the dark nature of the story
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah,
locations that we had. Um, and it was just a great shoot. I mean, I really, really enjoyed that. And I loved working with George. He just gave me so much freedom
yeah.
to
That's
do
gotta be
what I like
amazing.
to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for some reason, I didn't have the dark places, I didn't have those photos, but
Oh,
that's that's the poster behind you.
yes, the poster behind me. Yeah, which is also one of the nicest posters I think I've ever seen for one of the films that I've worked on.
Yeah, and Tommy Kendricks, he played 2
Yes, Tommy,
roles.
he plays two different characters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great actor, Tommy,
yes, he is.
really is. Well,
Fantastic.
let me talk about this real quickly because I want to get into Struck, and we've our time is going fast, you guys.
Wow.
Um, tell us a little bit about More Than Conquerors because you worked with a green screen and there was a set. Tell us a little bit about that, and we're going to transition into Struck.
Yeah, well, sometimes I have the opportunity to design the lighting before we actually get to the location. That's not always the case. Usually we just show up and we've got to make instant decisions on how to light the scene and all. But here I knew that we had certain sets. I had the still photos of them before we got there. And then I designed, where the sun would be, how the light would play, but also knowing that we were going to have green screens outside. And that becomes a little bit problematic because you've got to control that light so it doesn't spill onto the set or onto the characters. The thing I didn't understand is that when you look at the back three windows on the picture on the top, you can see something out there. It's a rack of equipment and it's only like 10 feet away from the set, which is barely enough room to stick a green screen, light it, and then place lights out there to light the interior
Mhm,
of
mhm.
the set. So I found that almost in all of these sets, there was hardly any room around them because the sets were so big and they were inside of a warehouse.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see the stuff outside the window. I mean, it's just outside the window there. So
Well,
in this case, the set is complete. The green screen is not there to have set elements added to it.
yeah.
Sometimes an actor is actually standing in an empty room with just a few props around him and a green screen behind him. And he, as well as everyone else, has to imagine what it is that's behind him, what's around him. He's got to believe that there is a set there. It will be
Mhm,
eventually, of
mhm.
course, but he's got to understand where it is, how it's lit, how his movement affects what's happening right behind him.
Right,
In this
right.
case, we're just filling the window with light or clouds or whatever. So
Sure.
here's a good example. Yeah, the top frame, this is basically what the camera sees, a very
Yeah.
flat image, and you can see the green screen outside. And then below with the sunset
It's a,
clouds and everything added, and then the scene graded to look like the light's actually primarily coming from outside the window.
but it really helps because it allows, I think, the filmmakers to control the elements, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can do a set, in front of the green screen, you can add different elements to the scene, so that and really paint the scene and create these different layers. And we've done a lot of that in Struck, and I want people to see that as well. But it is truly amazing what you're able to do with CGI, green screens, and now volume screens where you're
Right.
doing, these huge animations behind the actors, and you can create these incredible environments.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think well, let me do this. I want to go to a few folks. We've got several comments, and let me see what we've got here. Let's see. Steve Wells says, "Who was your favorite producer?"
Oh, well, the guy that's on screen with me, right? I have to say that.
Well, you don't have to say that, but I appreciate it.
If I want to continue working on this project, I do, right?
There you go. You know the right answer.
You know, I
So,
that's a difficult question to answer because I usually don't interact with the producer that much.
more the
It's usually,
directors.
it's usually the director. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know
Sometimes
it's a
producers never
very,
even come on the set or anything. You just
yeah.
you see him in an initial email or phone conversation, and
I
that's
know
about
it's
it.
that partnership between the director. It's very, very important, the partnership between the director and the cinematographer, because he's directing actors, but he's also working with the cinematographer. And I don't think people realize that, and that that collaborative effort that happens as you're shooting a production. The director and the cinematographer are really like this, because it's important, as he's watching the monitor, the director's watching the monitor, that things are the way they need to be. And the cinematographer, I think, in a really good relationship, he's offering sound advice and composition and layout, as well as lighting and so forth. All those things kind of work together. um, so it's interesting. Let's see what else we've got. Let's see. Loving the interview. Friendly says, um, Amanda says, "Thanks, James. I hired you." So,
Oh
and
yeah, I guess
then
I should have said Amanda's my favorite
there you go.
producer,
That's
writer.
probably better. Yeah. So Cindy says that, let's see, Beyond the Farthest Star is another fantastic film. Yes, it is. I know that you work with us in and that was kind of an interesting thing, because we worked on site, on location, and for a lot of the work that you did, we worked on a set. And so there were some interesting dynamics there. So both, on location and working on a set, and those had to seamlessly work together. And there's no way people would even know that we had that one set that you worked with us on in the film.
Is that the hotel room with the bathroom?
The hotel room, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which we could have shot up an actual hotel bathroom, but we chose to do it on set and control the environment, like we had mentioned before. Well, I've got to surprise you guys. I'm going to show you. Let me get over here to it. I'm going to show you a scene from the film. So let me do that really quick. This is an incredible scene that James, of course, shot. I want to talk to him a little bit about it. But is the scene between Noah and Alora. This was all done on green screen. We had certain set elements that we had. The actors had to perform like they were on the ark. And of course, there's no way we can get the ark and put it on water. So we did shoot on set with this scene. And I worked with the amazing Catherine Franco, who I think's online right now. Hey, Catherine. But she hasn't seen the full scene yet. So it's exciting that she's online and she's going to see this for the first time. And you guys are going to see this for the first time. So without further ado, let me get that on set. Here we go.
Ya Allah. I feel like I've failed you. No one else is with us. I feel so lost.
We are not lost. We are together. Drink this, it'll calm your stomach.
Elora, I wanted to do more. I wanted to do
When I first met you, I believed in you. And then because of who you are and how you are, I believed in Jehovah. I know that somehow he will make a way for us.
but I feel a weight around me.
I know. But I still believe.
We are in the center of his will. And you are his light in my life.
There you go. Wow, it's such a tender, sweet scene. And I wish people could see where it started because it didn't look nothing like that when we were shooting it. I think it's interesting, James, to me that as a cinematographer, you have to see things that aren't there yet and kind of visualize how it's going to eventually look with the post work, the CGI work, the green screen work that will not be there. Of course, the viewer never sees the green screen and they just see the elements and they see it all put together. But tell me a little bit about that. How does that work as a DP as you're on set, and what are some of the mechanics you have to think about?
Wow, quite a few actually. Uh, Lighting, I think, is probably the most difficult thing to pre-visualize because usually what we do is we turn off the lights on the green screen and we light the actors and the set pieces that are there. Because if you have the green screen on, your eye is being drawn to that because it's usually fairly bright, and also you're trying to guess the ratios between what is going to be in the background and what's going to be in the foreground. On these shots between Noah and his wife, the only actual set piece is the piece of plywood skin that's rounded behind you. Everything else from the middle of that screen to the left has been added in post. And so on the wide shots, that's like 3/4 of everything that you see in the frame has been added in post. And when we were shooting this, I had no idea what was going to be behind them. We knew that it was going to have to be something, to show the inside of the ark.
Yeah.
But as far as its scale, what was going to be there, were there going to be animals or whatever? And this was after a very long day.
Yeah, it was a long day.
Yes, very long day. And actually, some of the crew were threatening to go home and take their equipment with them because they had worked for a long time with it.
Yeah, it was it
Not
was
full pay, and there had been
yeah.
a lot of problems that day. And so we basically just had to scrape this together with a couple of lights and not all of our crew, and just get it shot.
Yeah, it was
Sometimes
an
it's like that
intense.
on an indie film,
Yeah,
you
it
don't
is.
have all the tools, you don't have all the time that you need, and you just got to make it work.
When we had that much budget too, and it
Exactly. Yeah.
was it was done. But I think the amazing part, the magic, the film magic, and how it all comes together, it really is incredible how it looks now, and you're just going, "Oh my gosh, how
How did we do
did
that?
this come together and happen?" But I mean, I think what people don't, they just don't understand the complexities, the details, all of the work that goes on to make that scene really come to life. I appreciate Wes and Amanda in their writing style and really introducing that component because it's something we've never seen before, where Noah and his wife had to exist and they had to start afresh. They had to start anew after their entire world was destroyed. So, in working on that scene, one of the things that I kept thinking about was, it's kind of like PTSD because Noah just, his world was completely gone and he had to sit in the ark while the rains came and listen to those people screaming, to come on board after he had really tried to evangelize them for years and they thought he was crazy. So it had to be challenging. He probably did feel like a failure because he only had his family, but he had his family. And that's what I love that scene because Alora says, no, we're together and we're here. And she was that voice that strengthened him, allowing him to continue with that faith movement and that giant leap of faith that he took to follow God. But I also appreciate your work and Wes's work on this and the entire crew because it really is so much deeper and so much more visually exciting now that all the backgrounds have been added. But so talk a little bit more about really struck and some of the other challenges, some of the other things that you've been able to accomplish, and some of the things that we did on set.
Well, like you said, we had a very small budget, and we were trying to capture a very epic story. Everything from doing a blizzard on Mount Ararat to the hold of the ship, and then we did some interiors between John and his fiancee. Um, I mean, we tried to encapsulate a whole bunch of different elements that will be eventually told, spread out over, multiple seasons and episodes, just to give potential funders a sense of, the scope of this story and the characters and the arcs that they're going to be going through. Um, so I think what we did with the little bit of budget and time we had was pretty phenomenal, actually. I mean, because I know that if it's funded, we're going to have the money, the equipment, and the time to do it right.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, it was we were able to collect several different scenes and do several different because we've got the biblical time period, the antediluvian pre-flood world, and on the ark as well. And we've got all of the 70s stuff with John, the mountain climb. It really was, I mean, phenomenal that we're able to capture all of those things and create that visual because now we have to take it on to distributors and they need to get the vision. They need to catch the vision of what we're trying to do. It is an ambitious project because we're covering two different time periods and covering extensively different locations. And I got to say, I've been impressed with the writing, with the directing, with the cinematography, the special effects. I've been just blown away with the cast. I mean, Cameron Arnett as Asa, Todd Terry as JB, and Todd Denson as John, Catherine Franco, Kaylee Hessler. Just so many incredible. Gabe Baker. You start naming them. You're like, okay, I got to remember all these people. But Giannis, I mean, just incredible, talented people, and it really is such a team effort because you've got the people that are in front of the camera, but you've got everything going on behind the camera that really makes it work together. And you understand how it is such a team effort that everyone is contributing their talent, their ability to make something like this come together. And then even after it's shot, all of the special effects and the work that was done afterwards, so it just is a tremendous effort. and exciting that that we're going to approach now distributors.
Yeah. 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 When you think back what we did in just those few short days that we had, few long days that we had to shoot
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. It's actually pretty miraculous.
It really is, and we came back and we shot the, VW scene in the vineyard, which was, some pickup shots that we did later. I mean, that was just shot, last year, and then this year, everything was kinda put together, but yeah, it really is phenomenal. Well, James, I wanna thank you so much for
Sure.
joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your work and your ability, and, it just has been thrilling for me to talk to you a little bit more about there's some things I didn't know about you, so I'm excited to know that, and I'm sure everyone else is too. But yeah, thanks so much, James, and I appreciate you and really everything you've contributed to this project because it's definitely seen. And James also is a phenomenal editor to you guys. And if you haven't seen some of the other videos on YouTube, make sure you go to the Struck the Series YouTube, and you can also see some of his work and some of the interview projects that we've been able to complete. But just phenomenal, James. Thanks so much. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Ben.
All
Appreciate it.
right. All right. Thanks. Yeah, what a talent you guys really, and it just is interesting to see kind of how he crafted his talent over the years, working on so many different projects. And it was really wonderful to know some of the things and really to understand his heart for a filmmaker that he is. So, well, listen, so you guys, I need to tell you again about Struck the Series, make sure you go to strucktheseries.com and you definitely see everything that we have there. And there's only a few days left. Make sure you get some Struck gear because right now, for a limited time, I think it's only until the 26th. So just a few more days, but you can get Struck merchandise for 20% off. Just use Heatwave20 as the promo code, and that way you can get that discount. And I don't know, I've seen that silver tumbler. I'm thinking I'd get one of those for myself. I really want one of those. They're really, really cool. We had a giveaway the other day, and I gave one away, and I was like, I think I'm going to keep that. I don't know if I want to give it away because it's so cool. But yeah, just you guys, it's important that you go online and just make sure you get involved and let other people know. Just share and follow us on social media and let other people know. Let me see who else is on. Let's see who else we've got here. We've got Jen. Jen says, "Yay, Catherine Franco! Can't wait to see this." Catherine Franco's on. Hey, Catherine. She's got a heart emoji on there. Let's see. Craig says, "Super." And oh, you guys are talking about the scene, of course. Cindy says, "Love the scene." Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, thanks guys for that. I'm showing some of the comments so you guys can see them too. Yeah, the scene is wonderful, you guys. It really is phenomenal. It just shows this really tenderness between Noah and Alora, his wife. And I don't know if I've said this before, but no one knows Mrs. Noah's real name, so she wasn't recorded. Her name wasn't recorded, but Elora means beautiful light, God's light, and so it's very appropriate that Noah says, "You are His light in my life." I love that line. Great line, Amanda and Wes. Great line. So yeah, let's see who else we've got here. Yeah. So Catherine says, "Thank you to Jen. Yes, yes, yes. And thanks to Cindy. Uh, yeah, that was a long day." Amanda says, it was tough. We were very ambitious. We tried to cover a lot of ground. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the entire Noah and ACES scene with Cameron Arnett was shot that same day, and we had some technical issues, as usually happens on set, and we had some green screen and we had some background stuff going on. There was a lot of pieces and parts, so it was late when we got to that scene, but so great, so great. Let's see what Catherine says. Generous person. Oh, what a sweet note. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I'm reading as you guys are reading. Yes, yes. So good, you guys. So good. Yeah, it's such a wonderful scene. I'm so glad I was able to share it with you guys. It's important. I just want you guys to see how important this series is. And then also go online. You can become a Thunder partner. You can actually donate. It's all tax deductible. So if you donate to the series, it's a tax write-off for you. It's much like anything else that you give. It's a charitable organization that we've established for the series. So you guys can give and get that tax benefit, but it helps us develop the series. Now, who knows what's going to happen as the series develops, but just like The Chosen, we're doing crowdfunding and we need your help. So if you want series like this, if you want this epic adventure series on streaming, then make sure you not only get involved, but donate, give what you can. You know, if it's $20, that helps us. Buy a t-shirt, that helps us. And tell others about us. Let them know, tell your family and friends, your church members, tell them about who we are, take them to the website, which we're about to completely redesign. So as we grow, as we expand, we want you guys to see behind the curtain, see what we're doing behind the curtain, and let everyone know about Struck Live. We come to you live once a month. It's about the third weekend in the month. And next month, we're going to have another special person on that has been very involved in Struck this series. So you're going to come back and see that, but make sure you get the newsletters, trying to sign up for the Lightning Club and also for the Thunder partner when you give. And you also get a prayer devotional back when you give to us. So just want to help you guys. We want to give back to you. But thank you again for everything that you guys do and everything that you are. Thanks for joining today. I really appreciate it. And just share this. Let other people see who we are in this 10th episode of Struck Live. And I appreciate it. And I'm going to just close us out here right now. But thank you again for joining, and we'll see you soon.